Today on Beans, Brews and Bread we're going to look at fertigation, which is a cross between fertilising and irrigation. Quite a few other sites out there are giving it a try, it seems, this year. Not something which I've done before. In fact, if anything, we've probably thrown our weeds away on the municipal tip rather than even composting them here. But this year we want to try and rot them down and return some goodness back into the soil. So over the last few years we've, I think, struggled with the fertility on this particular site. We've not had a good delivery of manure for a few years, and I think that some of the crops are, suffering from quality issues. We're getting some stuff, but we're getting failures in terms of sort of the size of some of our root vegetables. I think there's a distinct lack of humus, I think, in the soil, which we're struggling sort of retaining the moisture. It gets very, very dry if we don't have regular rain, which you wouldn't think would be a problem in Manchester, but it is on this side. As soon as it rains, it just dries straight up. So I think, trying to look at some other ways other than just purchasing bought manure in, which can suffer from problems with weed killer, persistent residues in the soil, which affects crops. I haven't had touch wood problems with that on this site, but it is a bit of a worry. I'm trying to think of other ways other than just trialing a few different options on compost heaps, how to get some goodness back into the soil. And one method which we've seen is this fertigation method, which is kind of borrowed from using compost teas, comfrey, nettles, which are soaked in water, which are parcel of British allotment and for market garden growing, but also sort of South Korean horticultural method, which seem to use this quite extensively with sort of pre-prepared tinctures and teas made from various different plants to actually benefit certain types of plants rather than a general tonic. So we thought we'd use that and try that this year and see if that improves some of our root crops. So let's go have a look, see what it looks like and smells like, and see how we apply it onto the ground. So here in a secluded corner of the allotment plot, we've got the fermenting bin from home. You can see the temperature. 32 degrees plus, so it's plipping away quite nicely in there. As you can see, we've put some grass in there, some old spent crops, weeds, a few bits and bats, and they're breaking down quite nicely. It smells quite sweet, doesn't? I mean, it's obviously decomposing, you can tell that, but it's not as bad as I imagined it would be. But hopefully spreading this around is going to help us return a bit of fertility back to the soil without having to use tons and tons of compost. Obviously we have got a few compost heaps on the go. I've got a new system where I'm trying to compost in place so we don't lose any leachates from sort of the water going into the soil. Might as well get the benefit of it rather than a static compost heap. Well, this is an interesting system, and we'll carry this for a while. Don't intend to use it on any crops that we're harvesting anytime soon, like salads or beans or peas or anything, but root crops that we're not going to eat for a while, sweet corn, parsnips, beetroot, that kind of thing. We'll give them a douse in this and see how they go. Give it a stir, return the mould and bacteria back in. It's brewing away quite nicely. You can see the old mini little carrots. There's probably a few potatoes at the bottom. Not a soup or stew I would recommend you drink. So yeah, we're diluting it about 1 litre in 10 litres of water at the moment. The stronger it gets, the more dilute we'll make it. But at the moment it's only been going a few weeks, so about 1 in 10 solution at the moment. He's hoping. So I'll try and get a bit of that on the parsnips and some of the other root crops that we're not going to harvest just yet, because I don't like the idea of putting bacteria-laden water all over things that we're going to harvest anytime soon. So we'll give that a go. trying this on the beetroot and the parsnips. I think the parsnips have suffered a little bit with lack of nutrients. They're not as big as other ones I've grown before in the past, so hopefully this will give us a boost. So we're diluting this about sort of 1 litre in every 10 litre watering can at the moment. It's only been on the brew for sort of a few weeks. Like I say, we put some weeds in, roots and all, no seeds if we can avoid it, and some, you know, green potatoes that were dug up from the harvest, and some small carrots and things like that. But it's brewing away quite nicely. It doesn't smell brilliant, but it also doesn't smell truly terrible either. You can definitely tell you've put it on the ground when you've watered, but I've certainly smelt worse things. Normal bucket would do. It's in a old fermenting bucket from my home brewing, which is quite handy because you can get a tap on that as well, and quite a close fitting lid, and excludes the oxygen. But really only been watering for the last week on it, so I don't know how much of a difference it's made necessarily yet, but I think time will tell. So some of the other channels out there which have featured this quite heavily have been David the Good, which I think is a great channel to follow. I think it has a really good sense of humour and a really common sense way of approaching growing vegetables. And another channel which has recently covered it in quite a bit of detail, from as simple as just putting grass clippings in a bucket and covering it with water, to tailor-made teas and tinctures for individual crops. It's Hugh Richards' channel as well, which has got some great content on there from this kind of fertigation method, and really goes through it in quite some detail as well, and links down below in the comments. If you want to look into it a bit more, the method name which seems to mostly be associated with this is called the JADAM, the JADAM fertigation method. There are some books out there that cover this. I've got one which I've purchased recently, which seems to be a bit more of a cover-all kind of topic, rather than the specific author who seems to have looked into this into a great deal of depth. But I'll post some links below in the comments as to the book that I've bought, and also the one which seems to be the main sort of go-to proponent of this particular method, and he seems to have looked into it quite in depth. Definitely an interesting way of getting a bit of goodness back into the soil, and a good alternative to having great big massive compost heaps everywhere. If you are interested in getting either of those two, then I'd be grateful if you could perhaps use a link that I've put down in the description below, because obviously that will give a bit of a boost for the channel. But thanks if you do. Cheers. So thank you for watching today on Beans, Brews and Bread. Just a quick video. If you have any comments, put them down below. If you have any suggestions, or if you've given it a try before, if you have any concerns or questions about how you might want to apply it to what you're growing at home, then make some noise down below. If you like what you've seen today, then I'd be grateful if you give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to be notified of the next time we post a video, then be grateful if you subscribe. But other than that, see you next time. Bye.